against me and the mother of my children. And then we were arrested one day that we just walking home. We were tortured for three nights. We were not allowed to sleep. They constantly, physically and mentally, they tortured us.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman, Logan Crawford.
They now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're sharing the powerful story of survival, healing, and human resilience with an amazing author. His name is Mayan Goodwill, and his memoir is called Openness and Visibility. And in the book, he recounts the harrowing realities of political turmoil in El Salvador and the trauma of unjust imprisonment and his courageous journey to build a new life in Australia. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put him on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Mayan, thank you so much for joining me here today.
It's a privilege to be here, Logan, and thank you for showing interest on my very first book that I have been able to publish.
Well, it's my pleasure. It is worth every recognition that we're giving it, every accolade it receives, because it is a terrific book based on your real life experiences, of course. A lot of them were difficult. A lot of them were challenging. Was it tough to write down these traumatic experiences? Tell us a little bit about the writing process.
It's been a very personal, challenging journey to write all of these memories, and I must admit it is still tip of the iceberg, so there's still more happening, but I've thought about highlighting some of those more significant experiences that I lived before I migrated to Australia back in El Salvador, and also some of those very significant moments in which have shaped who I am today. There were moments that I needed to have a bit of space to be able to self-regulate myself, because there was still a lot of very traumatic and grief memories there for what happened, especially with my grandmother, and also my cousins, then my niece also, and also the impunity and the injustice that we suffer later after as well. So I needed to have sometimes a bit of space, a bit of break, go back to therapy sometimes.
I'm sure.
But I think overall it's been a positive experience for healing the past. And also I'm hope that my experiences and my memories in the book that I have written, it can resonate with people in terms of showing that even though in the midst of trauma, in the midst of uncertainty, you still can find the light, that hope to continue to go through your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that hope shines through in your book. It's what drives you, obviously, throughout your life and your migration. Talk to us a little bit about what life was like in El Salvador before your migration.
Yes, I think I was a very everyday person. I wanted to look after myself, look after my family. I wanted to study. I wanted to work, of course, provide for myself. But circumstances that happens, lead to different journey as far as are written. So very difficult leading towards the moment in which, I could not, talking about, my childhood as well. it was difficult because even until now, really, I started actually for what I witnessed and what I saw as I walked to school as a child. Actually, I did lose my innocence because what I saw as I was walking every day to school, during that
Amazing.
time in which it's not something that a child will ever deserve or need to be witnessed,
Yeah.
and so human parts, because at that time it was the Civil War. No idea, I was just a child going to school, trying to learn to read and write, the basics in primary school, and yet, I saw all of these loss of humanity back then, back in the 80s. And
Amazing.
yeah, so, and again, don't want to give away too much in the book, but it's quite graphic what I witnessed as I walked to school. Um, Also, in terms of um, the moment in which also there was a nuns. I think I explained the story about the nuns as well. I don't know if it's something that is highlighted there, but the nuns used to take us from our very humble community to the other side of the bridge, in which rich people would live. They would have big houses, big gardens. And then one day I asked one of the nuns, why we live in a very small old shoeboxes forest source community, and why people like this live here. They got everything. They got space. They got gardens. You know. And then I remember the nun saying to me, "Is God willing?" And then I said to the nun, "No, sorry, but I disagree. I think this is man-made." So, and I was only 13 at the time. So I think my critical thinking, it was there already.
Yeah.
But as I continue writing my memories and experiences back in El Salvador, my critical thinking start to grow and grow more as continue witnessing injustices and impunity as well. I think I did. I must admit, I do miss the culture. I do miss my people, if I can say that.
It's your home, you
Yeah,
miss your home, your
exactly.
nation
And
was taken from you, which isn't right. You know what I
exactly.
mean? Yeah. It'd be
Yes.
like if
Yeah.
Australia was taken from you, or me in the United
Yeah.
States, if my country dramatically changed and I had to leave, even though it was a horrible situation I was escaping, there'd be things I'd miss. I'd miss the food, I'd miss the
That's right.
weather, I miss my friends, the
The
relations,
food,
the
everything.
history. Yeah, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
to it.
So,
What were the circumstances surrounding your illegal imprisonment?
well, that's another thing too. I think, living after what happened with my grandmother, in which she died, and those responsible never, there was impunity. They never brought to justice because they were part of the military. I became a bit more active in terms of understanding injustice. I come across a community organization, an NGO, and then I start working there as a volunteer and helping. And that's another thing also. At that time in the 80s, there was a lot of internal immigration of mostly peasants migrating to the city because of the indiscriminated bombardments of the military in the rural areas of El Salvador. And a lot of them, they came as more like internal refugees. And then this NGO where I started working as a volunteer, start to help them, to start communities from scratch, try to get all the essential services like water, electricity, and all of that. Also, I met people from doctors from Doctors Without Borders, and then with the help, we set up also clinics, vaccinating children, all those services that government should have taken at the time, but they never did. But anyway, so that was the work that I was doing. And because of that, at that time, any NGOs, for some reason, it was this negative perception that we were communists, And I don't think, I never consider myself a communist, I think I believe I was more like a very humanistic person to try to help others in need, which is what my grandmother taught me, always help others in need. And because of that, there was this kind of fabrications of things against me and the mother of my children. And then we were arrested one day that we just walking home. We were tortured for three nights. We were not allowed to sleep. They constantly, physically and mentally, they tortured us. And after three nights, they told us if they were gonna take us to court and we need to accept all the charges against us. Otherwise, because if not, we will stay longer, to continue being tortured. So we went a lot of pressure and duress by the military to, agree with the charges. And that's what we did when they took us to the courts with not knowing. We just were afraid. We just wanted to survive the experience. And we did. And they took us to court. And then that was so briefly, the mother of my children. By the way, we just been married for about 7 months after this, what happened. So we were a very young couple back then. And then they took us to the court, and then because we accepted the charges under duress, then they took her to a women's prison, and then they took me to the men's prison, and we were separated for 2 years. Wow. We were the very first case of going to a jury in these particular cases of political prisoners back in El Salvador. And the reality was that when the time came for the jury, the allegations of the government lawyers against us were complete fabricated, they were lies. And the other thing also, at that time, the media, if we're going back to when we got arrested, also the media, there was 2 Mayan newspapers back in El Salvador that is still running, by the way. They actually took the liberty to make us guilty, make us, that we were actually no members of society, and making a lot of allegations against us without any basis. So our faces were at the cover of those 2 Mayan newspapers for almost 3 weeks.
Crazy.
And then, of course, again, that was part of that psychological torture, because families go very afraid. So my family never came to see me, to visit me. And but again, we were lucky that the International Red Cross used to come for welfare checks for us. And that's how we, in some way, we went by. But while in prison, I make the best of it. I finished my year 9 there. And also I learned how to play the guitar, how to do wood carving. So, for me, like, I tried to make it a positive experience as much as I could.
Yeah.
But again, the whole injustice and the reason when we went to the trial, there were no evidence at all. So at the end, we were finally released from that illegal imprisonment after 2 years. And then, when we were released, it was difficult to adjust.
Yeah.
I could not trust anybody. I remember having a lot of issues sleeping. I could not really feel safe anymore in El Salvador. And then we were aware about this refugee program to the United Nations, that it was part of the consulate from the Australian government, that it was through Mexico, but they have an embassy in El Salvador. They have consulate there, and then they are the one who's helped us with the whole process to, fled the country. But it took about 8 months after our release. So those 8 months, we were in different places and with different friends. Yeah. Because we just could not feel safe anymore.
Amazing. So many hardships that you were put through.
Yeah.
You did hold on to hope throughout. You did make the best of bad situations. This book is incredible, folks. It is detailed. It is heart-wrenching. It is moving. And it is filled with hope. And it is highly recommended by the Spotlight Network. It is called Openness and Visibility. It's a memoir that will be a moving reminder that even in the darkest times, dignity and hope can prevail. Mayan, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I'm writing a bit of 2 more books coming up as well, just to give a bit of heads up. Wonderful. But of course, I'll be in touch with the team. Mm-hmm. With 7 Media, and thank you very much for everybody and your support. And I appreciate that you've been very kind to, give me this opportunity to tell my story.
Absolutely. It's an incredible story. We look forward to talking to you about your other books. I appreciate your time today, your heart, your wisdom, and your insight. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time.